So the number one thing, we've talked a lot about using these long runs as a dress rehearsal, right? And part of that is getting practice for the hills. The other part of it is just before we get into the hill part, just general strategy and something that you should all be practicing now. Don't wait until Marathon Monday, is going out slow when you start your run. I've said this probably close to 1 million times over the last couple of years because it's absolutely critical to having a good time on Marathon Monday. It's absolutely critical to you kicking some serious butt when you get to the hills on Marathon Monday. The biggest problem with Boston is that it's a net downhill course. So the first half of the course is a gradual downhill. And most of the time you don't notice it, your nerves are all jumpy and jittery, and you just go out like a bat out of hell. See you later. And then by the time you get to the halfway point, you're like, oh my God, I think my legs fell off. So the biggest thing you can do is go out extraordinarily slow, right? So I want everyone to practice that starting today. Every single long run that we do the rest of the season, I want you to go out slow and then tell yourself to slow down again, to slow down more. Because you really need to train yourself to say, okay, I think I'm comfortable. Trust me, you're probably still going too fast. Now, once we get to the hills, there's a couple things that you can do to really make sure that you're just shooting right up them. I remember there was this, in high school, our high school rivals were Gloucester, and they were like these really good runners. And there was this little kid, I hated him. He would always shoot right up the hill, like past me, and it's like a little jerk. So I wanted to figure out, how on earth am I going to get up these hills? So a couple things that you can do, and this is the most important thing is lowering your center of gravity. Right? The lower your center of gravity, the quicker you'll go up the hill. Because if you think about, you don't want to be a sail, right? Like the wind will just blow you over. So if you can bring yourself lower, you want to hunch down. You don't want to hunch over, right? Because you want your lungs to be able to function. But you want to kind of hunch down a little bit. The other thing you want to do is not really look up. We talked about earlier this morning, we were talking about how if you look up going up the hill, not only is it discouraging, what is this? But it's going to keep you from keeping your center of gravity. Once you look up, everything else comes up too. So you want to make sure that you're really focused on the ground, a few feet in front of you, get down low, and then you'll shoot right up the hill. I promise.
When Sarad is talking about going out slow, just to put it in a little bit time perspective, if you're naturally the type of person that runs a solid 9-minute mile, you do 5Ks, 10Ks comfortably at 9 minutes, when you're doing a marathon or a half marathon, your first couple miles should be in the 10-minute range. It's very difficult to do at Boston. You don't notice it, but it's downhill, and your adrenaline rush when that gun goes off, you get really excited, and so a lot of people will be like, that is the fastest I've ever gone out at 8:30. You really want to slow yourself down. The good thing about Boston is it's a very crowded start, so the crowd naturally slows you down as long as your adrenaline doesn't start pumping and you start doing the crisscrossing and you bob and weave the whole entire time for the first 2 miles going downhill. So really, really practice that. That's what your watches are great for on these training runs, is to make sure that you're going out really slow. It's going to feel uncomfortable, and it might feel a little annoying because you're used to doing 9-minute miles or a little bit quicker, and here you're going so slow, and this run isn't going to ever end if I go at this pace. You'll pick it up, but if you don't really allow yourself to warm up, you're going to have trouble later in the course. And then, again, when Sarad is mentioning that low center of gravity, another thing to really just be careful at, when you're hunched forward, you really want to bend from the hips. Everything should be right on your core, hinging forward slightly from the hips. A lot of people later in the race, all of a sudden, they may have started the race when they're 25 years old, and now they look like 80-year-old, and they're like doing a whole shuffle, and their whole care. You can't breathe. This takes a lot of energy, so you really want to make sure it's a slight hinge from the hips. You got a little bend in the knees. Another thing that will help.
Bend in sap.
Yeah. Another thing will help when you have a low center of gravity is when we hit the hills, you have a tendency to kind of go up on your toes because the road is going steep underneath you, and so you're just landing on your toes, and you're running like this, and your calves are going to start cramping and really have an issue. If you lower your center of gravity, it's easier to land on that midfoot and spring up. So really try and focus on that today. You might have to slow yourself down during these runs to really practice that, but if you do that, come Marathon Monday, it will be more natural, and your strategy is just going to happen because you've practiced all this stuff in these weeks to come.
And the biggest thing is, feel as relaxed as possible, even though, we want you to focus on all these different things. But if it feels super unnatural, obviously, don't do it if it hurts when you're doing something. But just try and stay relaxed, right? Focus on the ground, a couple feet in front of you, and don't look up until you get to the top of the hill. Once you pass the crest of the hill, then you can kind of come back up and say, yeah, kick that hill's butt. So just make sure you just write down here to here, and before you know it, it'll be over. All of it.
So in years past, we've done this route, and we've had you do all the hills, and we get to Heartbreak, and everybody's up there, the water starts cheering for you, you get up there, you're like, this is so great, I can't believe that was Heartbreak, it's really not that bad, and it really isn't. And then one year, finally, SJ said, all right, I'm at the top, but you guys never told us how to go back down. And it seems kind of like not, oh, it's downhill, it's easy. You need to actually run with a strategy downhill just as much as you need one for uphill. So again, you're conserving energy, and it's all about even effort. So yes, cheer when you get up to the top of the hill, but you want to, again, hinging from the hips, you want to kind of slightly lean back a little bit. And when you're going down the hills, it's slow and controlled. You almost want to feel like someone's holding you back slightly. So your carriage, shoulders are nice and back, arms are loose, and go nice and slow down the hills. If you go out too fast, you'll put a lot of stress and strain on the hamstrings and the quads, and those are the muscles that are going to start cramping up in those last 4 to 6 miles.
Be careful going down hills. Don't roll down.
Yeah.
That could lead to injury.
The most important thing is to, when you're practicing these hills, you're going to do them a lot, try not to look at your watches. It can be a little bit discouraging. When you hit the hills, you're going to notice your watch and you're like, oh my God, it says I'm running a 12-minute mile. I need to be at a 9 minutes time goal. You get a little anxious, and then you start to power up a little bit before measuring time, you clock. You really want to think about, how does this feel? Do you feel effort? So don't look at your watches when you're out practicing these skills. It's all about how you're feeling and the energy that you're exerting. It's great to check afterwards when you have your Garmin and you look at the running total. You can see, all right, on the flats, I was doing this, and if the hill, I'm going to slow down. And then look in the weeks, what you practice. You're going to get a little bit faster on the hills because it's going to become more natural. You're going to practice your stride. It's going to become easier. So if you look at your watches during the run, you tend to get anxious. You tend to try and pick up the pace so you hit your time goals. That's not what these training runs are about. It's about how does it feel? Am I, how's my form?
And guys, don't forget, we have an opportunity that we train on the course every single day. We get to meet here at the community center. So take advantage of that. If you spend the whole time looking at your damn watch, you're never going to get a good feel for the course. So make sure you soak up, the surroundings. I always like to pick different landmarks, just stuff to look at, and I love daydreaming about which house on Comm Ave I'm going to buy. Right? So enjoy the course. It's one of the best places to run, I think, anywhere. And don't get too caught up in distracted.
Any questions about running the hills on the channel?
I know we talked about this a couple times, but I know sometimes it takes you to say it a few more times for people to start listening.